there. Let me see where I put that. Okay, so up here, this one right here is the one that I did on Monday. That's in the announcements. Okay, that's the Monday one. Did I not put the other one in there? Let me see. Then there should be also a link where what I was telling everybody before is that, oh, I haven't put that. Yeah, here's the YouTube channel. Let me make sure it's the right. Oh, that's probably the wrong one. Let me go here. There is a bunch of old ones out there, and somehow you might have gotten to it instead of the right one. Oh, that's sign in. Okay. What's the extra? Don't. Oh yeah, I don't want that. What is happening that's making me do that? They sent a message. Okay, let's see it. It's going to make me sign in here again. Yes. Okay. Let me see. I think I only have the one loaded out here because I couldn't get the other one to load, but I've got it. It was saying that I'd already put it out there and it wouldn't, and I can't find it. So, but let me go here and put this link in for our channel. Yeah, that isn't the right one. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, now that should take you directly to where I'm going to load the one today, and I'll put the one from last Wednesday out there too. All right, so this is week 2. You should have, or I think you have till midnight tonight to complete that proximity one, and actually you should be through lessons 1 and 2, but I didn't have you post anything yet on Adobe XD. So this week we're going to work with some things that have to do with graphics, and also we're going to talk about the design principle alignment. And so let's go ahead and go to our design book by Robin Williams, and because this actually, oops, I did not mean to go do that. Now it went away. Maybe it's over here. There it is. Because this assignment is the alignment assignment that'll be due next week. Actually, I don't know why it says September 9th. It's due before that. I'll go in and change that. Next Monday, remember, is Labor Day. So we will not be meeting on Labor Day. So we won't we will only meet once next week, which will be Wednesday. This alignment assignment will be due on Monday, which is the 2nd. Actually, I'll probably go ahead and give you, maybe that's why it says the 9th. I'll probably give you until Tuesday night, that night, because of the holiday. But if you look here, this tells you always at the beginning, it'll tell us kind of what we're going to do this week. So we're going to talk about alignment, and then that assignment, I'll go over it on Wednesday. And then Adobe XD Lesson 3 and Lesson 4 should be done this week too. I don't know why I didn't put it on there. So let's go to that book. Go here too. So we're going to look at the chapter on alignment. And since we have already done the proximity, then what will happen is that assignment, even though it says on alignment, I will expect you to apply both sets of principles because we've already covered the proximity one. So we're going to go to chapter 3 on alignment. And why did it not take me there? There we go. All right, so in chapter 3, this was, remember we had a not so nice acronym for the 4 design principles, CRAP. So we did proximity, and now we're going to talk about alignment. And she talked a lot about it, Robin Williams did, in the last couple of chapters, where that you don't really hardly ever want to use center alignment. So here is an example. Now I know Shannon has had the other multimedia classes, so they've gone over some of these design principles. Can you all tell me again who's had these 4 design principles in other classes? Who's had them, like an art class or an Adobe class? You had it in, so you talked about those 4 design principles in an art class, right? Jesse and Elizabeth, anybody else? So this is kind of a review, so you will be able to know how to apply these also in graphics, because we used to require art classes for this degree, and because there's so much software to learn, we quit requiring those art classes. But if you had them in high school, that's great, because this will be a review of those. And a lot of graphics designers, they don't like to do art because they say, I can't draw, but you can do graphics. So, but the same principles are important in art, are also important in graphics. So that's why we're taking time to go over these here. Although what Robin Williams actually is a graphic designer and a publisher, that's why she knows the importance, but she tries to make them for a that's why the book is called Design for Non-Designers, because it's doesn't get into a lot of the theory behind it like an art class would. An art class goes a lot deeper into design. Okay, so the principle of alignment states that nothing should be placed on the page arbitrarily. Every item should have a visual connection with something else on the page. And that's the main thing that we're going over in these design principles, is that when you're designing something, that you just don't throw stuff out there haphazardly. Although I know there was artists like Picasso and some of that modern art seemed like it had no design anyway. And but this, when we're designing documents, or we're designing newsletters, we're designing websites, we're designing apps, there's certain things that you want to adhere to when you're doing that. And these principles are very important, because you want to be able it to be pleasing to the eye for the user to want to use what you're creating. So the principle of alignment forces you to be conscious. No longer can you just throw things on the page. And so this shows you the principle of alignment tells the reader that even though these items are not close, they belong to the same piece. Excuse me. Oh, here goes my sneezes. Probably 3. Okay. We occasionally experience a lack of alignment in life. So I know one of the terms that young people use a lot today. I know my son, he started telling me that he was OCD. Well, when I was growing up, there wasn't such thing as OCD. You either were an organized person or you weren't. You liked that. But it seems like there's a lot more of that in today's society. Like he has to have certain things certain ways or it drives him crazy. So actually, my grandson's that way too. He used to crack me up because he had all these little model cars and they had to be in a certain order. And if I moved one out, he would get very upset with me and he would have to put it back, which is really good because some aren't taught to pick up after themselves, but he does. He cannot stand a mess. So this looks kind of like a mess when we see crowds of people. How many of you crowds bother you? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my goodness, a bunch of you. Have you guys taken that online test called 16 Personalities? Anybody done that? No. Really? You guys might want to do this. Who said? It's called, have you ever heard of Myers-Briggs? No? Oh man, this is fun. We're not going to do it exactly in class, but I'm going to show you what it is, and y'all can do it if you want. Because my family, they've all done that in college. They did a Myers-Briggs test. You usually do that, and it kind of gives you an idea of what kind of personality you have and where your strong points are, and it's kind of fun. Like it's called 16, and then the word personalities. Let me see if I get it spelled right so it comes up right, and then I'll put it out there because you guys will have fun with this. Personality types, you answer these questions, and what we found out is that different times in your life you may change. Some people never change. Like my son is 29 and his wife, they've been married 10 years and they took it in college. Well, his wife took it yesterday again and hers didn't change one bit. His has changed a lot of things, that the way he answered these questions. But it's pretty neat. You just go in and you answer them online and it comes up and it tells you, like I'm called a campaigner. I'll show you one of them, but some of them are, I don't know. It's a pretty fun thing to do. If you want to do it on your own, and then next week you can I know my son-in-law, that's why it came up. He's a banker and he went to a big conference where they talked to you about how to do better at sales, how to influence people. They had to take this and he was saying, it would really help if whenever you talk to somebody, you knew some of these things about them because you would know how to relate to them better. So it tells you what their strong points, whether they like crowds, whether they don't like crowds, whether they like to be alone a lot. Talks about whether you're extrovert or introvert. It may really surprise you. My children that I thought were introverted really are not. Okay, so that was off the beaten track, but it is a fun thing to do. So people who don't like crowds used to be people had a lot of alone time, and now more people do with social media. They can feel like they're in a crowd but not have to physically be in a crowd, right? You can go to parties online. It's all kinds of different things. But in this particular document, this does not look like these people are aligned at all, even though they all have something in common because they're all going after tickets. We occasionally experience a lack of alignment in life like that. It creates discomfort. It appears to be unorganized. We don't know how to be effective. Does this picture right here bother anyone? Does that bother you? Yes, Tay, it does. Who's very organized, have been told that, Okay, Shannon, a couple of you. William, okay, Jonathan. Okay, so people can be organized in different ways. Sometimes people are real organized in their mind and in their work, but their desk can be messy all over. And they know right where stuff is. So there's a lot of different kinds of being organized. So alignment creates a calm center. It communicates more clearly. We know what to do. So we looked at this business card the other day in proximity. The two groups of text in the upper corners are not lined up along the same baseline, nor are they aligned at the left or right edges with the two groups at the bottom of the card, which don't line up on the same baseline either. So you probably, I guess you can see that this is down lower than this, right? So the baseline is talking about if you drew a line straight across there, they're not lined up at all. So this business card has no alignment at all. So if you put this here, you can tell what it's talking about. Get in the habit of drawing lines between elements to determine where the connections are lacking. Take a moment to decide which of the items above should be grouped into closer proximity and which should be separated. So we talked about this on the proximity chapter, but also, you know, the alignment. This looks a lot nicer over to the right, lined up flush with the right, and it has the address information grouped together and the name with the title of the company. So they, in this one grouping, they applied the proximity principle by grouping all the address information or contact information together, and then they grouped the names together. So they did proximity, and then they right aligned all of it. So grouping the related elements into closer proximity is also critical, so they did the alignment and the proximity. In the example repeated below that you saw in the proximity chapter, the text is also aligned. Where is it aligned there? Center, right? It's center aligned. So this example has a nice arrangement with the text items grouped into logical proximity, but the text is center aligned over itself and centered on the page. This example has a nice arrangement, or I'm sorry, this one is center aligned. It's a legitimate alignment. The edges are soft. You don't really see the strength of the line. That's the thing about center alignment. You don't, that's what it's telling you, is if you want something to look where you notice the alignment, then you don't want to use center aligned, because that's called soft alignment. This has the same logical arrangement or proximity, but it is now right aligned. So it's a hard edge. So that's called a hard alignment because you can see it. Do you tend to automatically center everything? A centered alignment is the most common alignment that beginners use. It's very safe and it's very comfortable. But when you watch her videos, she'll tell you, do not do that, because that is a beginner. You don't want to, there is occasions where a center alignment is good, but you want to combine the strength of certain things. So this is a typical report cover, this one up here. How many of you have made a report cover like that in your life? In high school? No? You never had to make a report cover? Yes. No, William? Did you not do reports? Did you not have to do a report, like a research report?
I haven't done that one.
You haven't done a report? Okay. Anybody else? Elizabeth said she did one, and maybe you just didn't do it like that. But usually you have to have a cover page that has the title of your report, who it's by, and the date. So that's typical. Here's one that's the strong flush left. You see how they made it flush left, and so you immediately can see the title and the tagline there, but the author and the date is flush left down at the bottom. Here's another one with with that's a signature page, I think is what that is. MA graduation certificate is flush left instead of centered. Stationery has so many design options, and we don't really use stationery anymore. But if you sometimes might be employed to create a graphics package for a corporation, they will require stationery because there are still documents that are more official if they're written on that company's stationery, and especially if you have to have them officially signed. So that's the reason to have stationery. A flush left alignment makes the page a little more sophisticated. Limiting the dotted line to the left side opens the page and emphasizes the alignment. Here's another one. The text is flush right, but placed on the left side. You see what they did? They placed it on the left side, but they flushed it right. That's a little different. So they flushed it right, but then moved it to the left side of the page. This one's probably the nicest looking one. So be brave, be bold. And she tells you, doesn't mean not to ever use center aligned, but you really need to think about it before you use it. Don't just put it there because you're comfortable with using that. See if that's the best way for what you're writing. And in this case, this probably is a good way. You know, there's a lot being done with t-shirts where they split a word in the middle, but everything's a block in the middle. Like, well, our new logo is Rose State's new logo is a block. Didn't used to be. It used to be for years and years and years. It was a shape. Now it's just whenever you go to our website. Okay, let's go here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It used to be, and they're trying to get it all off of everywhere. Oh.
I would just go with images. That way you can find a better logo.
See, did you see that? Yeah, well, did you see this one? Okay. When you go to, this is the new logo with just our words in a block. But if you go to right here, you can barely see it. See my little icon there? That try thing there used to be the logo until Dr. Jeannie Webb came on campus. She's the new president, and she had a company that changed everything. And I don't know if we have that old one on here or not anywhere, because they tried to get rid of all of it everywhere. There it is. This is the old logo. And that's, you didn't have this block here. I forget what that was called. There's a meaning behind those three, that shape, but I don't remember. Okay, so those are different things that you can use. Where did I go? But this one, see, is, I was trying to remind, how many of you have seen those t-shirts, know what I'm talking about? People are using, they're creating a block. And then, like, if the word stops, like if it's a long word, sometimes they'll put like R-O and then make it go completely across, S-E, like that, which doesn't make sense. But if you look at the t-shirt, there's a lot of t-shirt designs doing that now. They'll make it in a block and they'll cut the word off. Here's one where they put it in a block, and it makes it a lot easier to see if you want to have a picture over there. If you're going to center the text, experiment with making it more dramatic in some other way. So on the opposite page, find at least 3 small design differences in each of numbers 2, 3, and 4, different from number 1, that help to make these 3 examples communicate more clearly and present a more interesting visual appearance than the first one. If it is more visually interesting, it is more likely to be read and remembered. So the ones it's talking about is this one. This is how it looked first. This is the centered, this is what gives centered a bad name. It's boring, typeface, type that is too large, crowded text, double returns, claustrophobic border. You normally don't want to put a border around something anymore because, you know, even business cards you've seen now, they cover the whole thing with a photo or something. You know, there's no borders on things anymore. Render, oh ye gods, render me worthy of, okay, so this one looks a lot better than this one. What are some of the changes from this one to the green one? I think that's green. Looks black up there, doesn't it? Okay, so what's one difference? Text is smaller, so it fits better. It's a different font, right? What else? It's still centered, isn't it? So anything else anybody sees?
The opacity on the very bottom line
Is changed. So there's contrast, right, between this line and this line with that. But the alignment is still, they changed this because they changed the font. So it made the alignment, but it's still center aligned, the whole thing is. Okay, this one, a centered alignment, wait, that isn't the one. Okay, this one, they put a little image on there. That makes it a little, and they changed the font, but it's still centered alignment. It emphasizes a tall, slender, centered layout with a tall, slender piece of paper, perhaps half of a letter-sized page. So they changed where that it is more tall and slender. Here's one that's completely different. Emphasizes a wide, centered layout with a wide spread. So in all three of them, they still use centered, but they made it not so boring by changing the layout. Here's the different kinds of typefaces that they used. I want to emphasize that even though I suggest you take the centered alignment off your list for a while, there are a great many brilliant projects that use a centered alignment, but it must be a conscious choice, not the default choice simply because you haven't taken the time to experiment with anything else. So here's some where they did use centered and it's okay. Here's one that is a document. You can see a very strong line going right down the middle of this page that allows us to play with the other elements but still maintain an organized, cohesive presentation. You're accustomed to working with text alignments. Until you have more training, stick to this guideline. Choose one. That is, choose one text alignment on the page. All text is either flush left, flush right, or centered. So you don't want to have a combination of them. This text is justified. That's what I was talking about, how they're making t-shirts with justified so that there's the exact same amount of space between all the letters and the words. So justified is how they used to do newspaper blocks. You remember newspaper columns? They had to take up a certain space. Have you ever seen on you probably don't even pick up a printed newspaper anymore, but on a printed newspaper, sometimes there'll be a word every now and then that the letters are further apart to make them fit on that justified column. And that's because they had a certain amount of space. Has anyone did newsletters in high school or anybody on the yearbook committee or anything like that? You still have yearbooks in high school, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so you would have done that. Okay, so although these two elements still have two different alignments, these up here, they still, the top is flush left and the bottom is flush right. The edge of the descriptive text below aligns with the right edge of the thin rule text above, connecting the elements with an invisible line. And what you want to do is train your eyes to see those invisible lines. So nothing should be put on the page arbitrarily. Look at this. This is really hard to read. So they've done these columns here, but then because they centered each one of those, it's pretty hard to, there's other ways to put it down where it will look better. So here, let's look at this one. See how much nicer that looks with the phone numbers all across the top. And then these are left aligned in each column, so it's easier to see. Train your designer eye, find at least a dozen differences, most of them tiny, that make this ad appear more professional and communicate more clearly. So here's another one. This is a very common sight. Headlines are centered, text is flush left, and thus the right is ragged. So here's one, some things to do to make your alignments look better is to draw imaginary lines on them. So they want you to find a strong alignment, she says, and stick to it. Now here is something, the professional typographic indent is 1 M. Now you're gonna have to understand in HTML, when you do websites, fonts are actually, you can tell them to be a pixel, you can tell them to be M's, and when it says M's, an M is as wide as the point size of your type, which is about 2 spaces, not 5. So these columns are wide enough for the type to be set justified, which means that it's aligned on both sides, down the center. And so I want to see if I can find justified text.
Remember, you did your class was one that went over crap.
Went over.
Yeah, we did it for
We did a little bit in which class?
web design.
Oh, in web design. Yeah, we talked about it. Now here's what I was wanting to show you. Here's a text layout, left justified or centered on a t-shirt. This isn't the one. Let me see. Red bubble. Let me see if this is it. Well, I can show you what I'm talking about. Well, here's where they did justified. Okay, let me see if this one is it. Maybe. No, it doesn't show it. No, that's not what I, justified alignment. That's what I'm wanting to look at. That was, has anybody else here taken, you haven't been in web design. I don't think anybody else has been in web design. Okay, so let me try this. You did it in high school? Okay. Did you do design principles in there? Justified alignment. Let me see what it gives me. There. Okay, here, this shows typographic justification. So if it's justified, how do you justify should text? Let me see if this shows us. Oh, that's going to show you in Microsoft Office. Can't find those t-shirts like that. They're everywhere. Justified versus align. Justify or align. In this guide, we'll cover common alignment options. That's not, let me see here. Okay, this is justified. See how this text is? It's the same on the right as it is on the left. And see how the spacing is? In some places, the spacing is close together between the words. And then in some places, it's further apart, because they want to be sure that the alignment on the right and the left, see, it's exactly, if you draw an invisible line down there, you're going to see it the same. So the spacing is different. Look at that. Look, this is not. So they're doing that a lot on t-shirts. I don't know how to describe, but they'll put like 4, they may split a word in the middle where it shouldn't be. I don't know, that's a new trend when we were creating t-shirts for this one place. Here's justified. Here's some more like that. So justifying used to not be used at all. Now it's a trendy thing. I will show you. I'm going to find one before next time. Okay, so Train your designer, I find at least, okay, these are some more. This one is another one that we find the differences in. Draw vertical lines to see clearly how many different alignments there are. And so here they have this one justified. You see the columns, how they're justified on each side. Here's one, the art of pi, 6 steps to pi as art. And you see what they did here. This is where the text alignment, you can see the invisible lines. So they changed it, put the picture of the pi over here and lined up this, also brought those numbers closer together in proximity to what they relate to. You can really make things look differently. Look around. You've probably noticed how critical the principle of alignment is. Even if you group things into appropriate proximity, you almost always need to strengthen the alignments in a piece as well. So here's one where they did that with the dog thing. Look how much different that looks by just changing the alignment. One might say that the information on this card is grouped into logical units of information using the principle of proximity, but it still presents an amateurish look. Now you know why, because it has 3 different alignments on this little card. So a strong alignment organizes information more effectively and provides enough room to enlarge the cute doggy image. Okay, so on your assignment, you're going to take one of these 2 right here. You won't take both, and you're going to create it. Now, what I give you on this assignment, it's a little different than the proximity, because what I give you is the files that are used, the graphics, and so this is for week 2. You don't have to watch all of those videos because she just goes over what's in the chapter. But this last one, practice.mp4, this is the one that gives you the assignment, okay? And it also at the bottom has the zipped file with all the images for both of those. And what I tell you up here is that you are to create either the Frederick designs or happy saddles, and you can, this time I'm letting you use Adobe, any of the Adobe products. If you're good with Illustrator, or you're good with Photoshop, or you're good with InDesign or XD or Word, I'm letting you use Word on this one, although you won't be able to get as nice of a document. And has anybody ever used Canva? You have? Okay, who in here has never used InDesign before? Never used Adobe InDesign?
I've used InDesign once on graphic communications from Tech Center.
The Tech Center? Okay. So you can use one of those products, but Canva, you're going to find a link for it right here in the week module 2. It says Canva. If you click on it, this is a free software that is pretty robust for people that are just in. Do I have any marketing majors in here? Social media marketing? Okay. So instead of buying the Creative Cloud, you should have been able to get Adobe XD free. It's a free with just a Adobe sign-in. So you can use Canva instead of the Adobe products. Now, my graphic designers, eventually you will learn all of those Adobe products. But if you want to, for this class, this is a pretty neat down and dirty type of software. I'll show you how it works. See if I can find, oh, I thought I clicked on, there it is. Okay, open Canva in a new window. It will look like this. You can create a free login. And let me just log in because I have one somewhere. Oh, it's not showing me mine. Oh, I have no clue what my login is. Just a minute. There it is. Okay, so once you log in, this is kind of a drag and drop to create any kind of documents, and it has a lot better, a lot better control over the design than what you have with just like a Microsoft Word. You also have here where you can use use the graphics that I give you. So here you can design anything. You notice over here, all your designs, you can work with photos, you can work with print, you can create a brand kit. So if you want to create a company brand, you can do that here. You can go through creating social media posts here. It's really a neat tool that's free. Now you can pay for the pro version and of course do a lot more. But if you wanted to create a design, let's see, where's one? I'd go here and I could tell it whether I was going to create a presentation, a poster, animated social media, or a social media post, Facebook cover, a flyer, which is what you're going to do for this exercise. It's a flyer, and one of them is a business card, right? There's a blog banner, a card, email header, Twitter post, Pinterest graphic, Facebook app ad, Tumblr graphic. Here's a resume, a yearbook, book cover, desktop wallpaper, photo collage. I used it to create a photo collage with my daughter when she was a senior. Logo, menu, trifold brochure. Here's a business card. So one of those that I'm having you do for Happy Saddles, it's called, is actually I think it's a business card. Let me look again at the book. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take either, they're both ads, I guess. So each one just needs a little more attention to proximity and alignment. So you're going to take this, and I gave you all of the images and all the text, and you're either going to redesign that ad, keeping in mind alignment and proximity, or this program ad needs some help. So it's not a business card. I thought it was. It's an ad also. And so you can use this image of the horse. I give you that. I give you these images and the text. So you don't have to do both of them. You can select whichever one you want, and you're going to redesign it. And you can use, like I was saying, this Canva. I think it's here, isn't it? Right here. And so you can choose. Here's business cards, but we didn't need the business card. So I'm going to go back to the home. And I'm going to say create a design again. And here it tells me it's an ad. So I can go down here, and here's a Facebook app ad. That's going to be a different size though. Magazine cover, book cover, any of these would work. Look, it even has a thing for an infographic, which has anyone created an infographic before? You have? What did you create one for, Shannon? Your web page has an infographic. Okay, we can look at that. Etsy stuff, Twitch banner, LinkedIn banner, postcard, invitation, a program, an announcement. You might call that an announcement. You could probably pick that. Or that last one said a large rectangular ad. So that would work for the Happy Saddles. So you can use Canva. You can use Word if you want. You won't have as much control over the design in Word. Or you can use InDesign or Photoshop or Illustrator. Some people do a lot of designing in Illustrator versus InDesign. So for this one here, for your assignment, I need for you to save it as whatever the original software is, or at least you need to tell me what software you used in a paragraph when you submit it, because when you submit this assignment, and I don't think I have it in student, I think it's in a discussion. So let me go back to home and do student view so I can show you how you're going to submit it. Okay, once you watch the practice MP4, does it only give you a reply? Doesn't it let you add something? Yeah, so you will attach your document here, and in this little note here, you tell me which software you use to create yours. And then here in the attachment, if you use an Adobe product, be sure you also export it as a PDF so that it can be printed if it's so desired. I'm going to print some of them and put them up on our wall. So this is how you do this assignment here. Any questions? Okay, so you can use Canva or any of the Adobe products or Word to create your document. Let me get out of student view here.
Width and height. You want.
I don't, just a normal ad, just like it can be, as long as it's at least an 8.5 by 11, because, well, I don't know that Happy Saddles doesn't look like it's that big. Let me see if it gives you any specifications. If when you watch that practice video of hers, it tells you the assignment, and if she doesn't give you a custom size, then you can do it any size that you want, okay? Because I can't remember, we can watch it real quick. Let's see, what time is it? Let me look in there. Let me see, 2. Oops, that wasn't the one. Or actually, it may tell us right here. Let me see. Okay, this one right here, the Frederick Space Design, is a magazine ad. So you would want it to be 8.5 by 11. Isn't that what that is? That the right size? Not 11. It's 8.5 by this paper size, this notebook paper size. Isn't that 8.5 by 11? I think that one is. Let's see what this one. This one looks more like. This one is more like the size of like a big rectangular ad. So it could be more, it doesn't have to be 8.5 by 11. You don't want it business card size though. It's too, because it is an ad. It's a program ad. So that one you can customize if you do that one. This one up here might get 8.5 by 11. I don't want to watch that video. Okay, so in XD, lesson 3, see what lesson 3 and 4, I'm going to open that. Okay, there is also a what's that? Okay, where did that go? Oh, it's here. There it is. Okay, this is the web edition of the book. Did anybody have trouble getting to your web edition? Because you should be able to have the tutorial, so there's no need me going through it. But if you're on, okay, lesson 3 is creating and importing graphics. Now, the Adobe product that's used for graphics is Illustrator. Of course, you can do graphics in Photoshop also, but Illustrator is the drawing one. So here in lesson 3, they're going to have you bring content in from Adobe Illustrator. And the reason that's important is because when you create your final design for the mobile app, you might want to use Illustrator to create the logo for your app, but you don't have to. You can use the limited drawing tools that are inside XD. But this actually, in this lesson, it shows you how to use different, how to bring images in. You can create vector artwork. What is vector versus bitmap? What's the difference? Somebody tell me. What's a vector image? Won't pixelate because it's drawn with mathematical formulas. That's what Adobe Illustrator uses, and originally Flash animation, the Adobe software, that's all you could use were vector drawn images because it was for animating things. But now Flash lets you bring other images in. So this creating vector artwork in Adobe XD is easy thanks to the array of drawing tools available. If you're coming from other Adobe applications, you'll find the drawing tools in Adobe XD to be streamlined and efficient with a few differences. For more complex vector content, you can use Illustrator and easily bring the vector artwork into XD. And that's what it shows you how to create shapes with shape tools inside XD, and you do that, and then it has you to bring in one from Illustrator. Let me go here. This is where it has you for a list of supported and non-supported features when opening Illustrator files. Here's a link that tells you there's some things that you can do in Illustrator that is not supported in XD. Here's where here's the video that tells you how to do it. Working with UI kits. A UI kit in Adobe XD, you have access to a series of UI, which means user interface kits for Apple iOS, Microsoft Windows, Google Material, Android, and wireframes. UI kits and wireframes can save time when you're designing for different device interfaces and platforms. They are XD files that include common design elements such as icons, keyboard layouts, navigation bars, inputs, buttons, and more. You can use UI Kit as a starting point or copy and paste elements into your own design. These resources can help you create a design that matches a specific design language like iOS. Now, you can download and unzip a UI kit from developer.apple.com. You'll then open an XD file from the downloaded files. Now, also, I have a link in here that once you learn to use the design there, these UI kits, see here's some videos that help you to create things. Here's Accessibility Inspector. So if you want to put these icons in your XD design, this shows you that they have this where you can download it and put it in there. It says the Accessibility Inspector enables you to identify parts of your app that are not accessible. Now, there's another link that I have out here that once you get through your XD, they're called XD challenges. And let me find that. And this, once you learn the tools in XD, every week there are daily creative challenges, and you can choose to unlock any one of these to create in XD, and it gives you the tools to do that. And it has a video, and like if here's one on icons and buttons. Here's responsive resize. So if you're creating a website, this shows you how to use XD to use the responsive resize. And if you want to get in a live one, you notice the dates on these. Like tomorrow, there's one live, Tuesday, August 27th. They'll start one, and you can actually ask questions of the designer. And all of these are here's some of the past ones that you can watch, how to create a home screen. And see, if I click on this here, Adobe just has so much stuff out here. Here's the person that did this one.
All the way down here. If you don't have XD, you can download it for free.
That one's actually on Photoshop. I clicked on the wrong one, I think.
Discord. So let me show you what Discord looks like. So this is our Discord channel. I think we have like 5,400 people when I checked yesterday. So it's growing, which is really great. And we have some great mentors. We have Howard Pinsky, Peter Del Tondo, Tim. We have Chris Cannon.
Yeah, see, this is all free stuff. They will go in there and help you if there's things that you've gotten into and you don't know how to do. And also, Shannon had asked me about what to do afterwards. And I put this link in here for you. Like if you get your XD all created, and I told you there was a, let me find it, where is it? It's in XD and mobile app. You see here inside Canvas, there's a link called XD and mobile app. And what this does is it tells you, there was a person that asked the same question that Shannon asked me, okay, how do you code this? Well, some people are really frustrated in this forum because once you get it to XD, you have to learn Xcode, or you have to learn programming, or turn it over to a developer. And that's what XD is about. This says, once I've developed an app in XD, how can I put it on the App Store and in Google Play? Because when you finish it in XD, it works. Did you get yours working yet, Shannon?
Mine was more
Like a web, you're doing a web page more. Okay, so if you get something developed that you want to put in the App Store and Google Play, well, you can actually, and when we get to the end of these exercises in our book, you will have a working mobile app, okay? And so they want to know, okay, well, it works and I've showed it to people, so how do I put it in the App Store? Well, you haven't actually coded it yet, okay? So it says, I am not an XD expert, but my understanding is that you would never do that. XD is for saving you months of programming time while you work out how the app should function. So you can actually make it function, but it has to be developed after that. But the purpose of that is so that you can show a developer, hey, instead of having to say, I want it to do this and I want it to do that, yours will actually do all that. When you click on a certain button, it will take you to another screen. So XD will do all of that. And then he also shows you here, there's a link here on how to export your design to a PNG and PDF files so that they can be used by a developer. So some of you, does any of you want to learn how to code? Anybody want to do that? Or you just want to, you do or don't?
No.
No. Okay, well that doesn't mean that you don't design. See, designers, if you're really a good designer, you have to at least be able to talk to a coder. Well, now Adobe is making it a lot easier for graphic designers because you don't have to know any code when you're using Adobe XD, and you can get your design down and functional to show a developer. Because a lot of times coders, they don't have ideas. They just know how to code. Like I was a coder. I was never a creative person. I got handed this degree because it was going to go by the wayside when our art person retired. But a lot, I have had an occasional student that could do both. But very seldom are you as good at one as the other. A lot of times a good coder is not as creative in graphics. And so if you get somebody that can learn Adobe XD because you don't have to know the code, then you can pass it on, because there are tons of developers out there that want to have a marketable app and they can code anything, but they don't have good ideas. Okay, so your good idea is worth more money actually than the coder sometimes. So being creative is a good thing. So I put this link in here so that after you get your design, but first things first, you have to learn XD. And so in lesson 3, that's what, where's it at? Where am I? Yeah. Okay, so in lesson 3, that you can also learn where to go get some of those UI kits that already have icons and things in them, so you don't have to create those icons. And you can just drag them into your design, which shows that, like for instance, that one we looked at, that accessibility is important. So on the web page that opens in your default browser, click download. It tells you exactly how to use that UI kit. And if you go over to that creative challenge, they do some things, excuse me, with UI kits also. Okay. Go back to, here's some more things on the fonts, opening and copying from the UI kit. So when you're through with lesson 3, you will have imported graphics from both a UI kit and from Illustrator, so that then you know how to do this. And then lesson 4 is adding images and text. So in it, you're going to bring in content from Photoshop. Okay, and you're going to mask content, work with text. So those are things that you do in lessons 3 and 4 that are assigned for this week. And you can see why before you can start on, you may have your idea for your app, but you need to get through this. And at the end of each lesson, you're creating something, and you don't want to get rid of it, because that's probably what I'm going to have you upload to show that you've done these lessons. Okay, any questions? So you're working on this outside of class. You'll probably have a little bit of time, but next time, because we were able to go over alignment in class today. So let me see what other ones, images and repetition. Okay, by the midterm will cover the things that we've covered so far, in which will be at 6 weeks, but we're on, I'm sorry, not until 8. Yeah, it's at 4 weeks. I forget this is an 8-week class, sorry. So at 4 weeks will be midterm. And so we've got we're halfway. Next week we won't meet on Monday. So we will only have Wednesday to talk about organizing content and summary design and putting it all, oops, I'm sorry, repetitions, what we'll do next week. All right. Okay, if everybody's good to go, then we're done. And you can work on your stuff in here.